You can't scroll 5 minutes online without seeing it.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
A celebrity, an influencer,
Yeah.
your neighbor, plunging themselves into just freezing water.
Right. And the hype is massive.
It's a cure-all, they say. Better immunity, metabolism, mental clarity, you name it. We are just drowning in cold plunge optimization advice.
And that's exactly the problem. When the claims are that bold, you really have to demand some precision from the evidence.
Mm.
So our mission in this deep dive is to be that scalpel. We're going to cut through all the noise and give you a really clear, evidence-based synthesis of the source material.
And we're sticking to high-confidence conclusions only.
Strictly, we're drawing a bright line between the immediate short-term effects and the, let's say, highly uncertain long-term adaptations.
We really have to cut to the chase here because the biggest finding is this massive physiological trade-off.
It really is.
Our deep dive found two critical high-confidence truths. First, what it absolutely does, which is rapid short-term recovery. And second, what it actively works against.
Which is long-term strength and muscle gains.
Exactly. We're going to spend a good chunk of time on the science behind that suppression, and then look at where all those other health claims currently stand.
And many of them are on some pretty shaky ground.
Okay, so let's start with the undisputed winners. The reliable, proven effects that happen right away.
Within, say, 48 hours of getting in the cold.
The highest confidence finding we have, it's backed by large meta-analyses, is its ability to reduce delayed onset muscle soreness.
Or DOMS. That feeling we all know and hate.
Right. The research confirms it reliably reduces that soreness within 24 to 48 hours after a really intense workout.
And what's useful is the sources tell us how to use it. There's an optimal protocol.
Okay.
The sweet spot seems to be an immersion of about 10 to 15 minutes.
And the temperature?
Somewhere between 11 and 15 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 52 to 59 Fahrenheit.
But here's the crucial nuance, and this is what stops it from being a magic bullet. The benefit is primarily perceptual.
Yes, that's the key. It significantly reduces your sensation of discomfort.
So you just feel better faster.
Exactly. You feel better. It improves your perceived muscular power at that 24-hour mark. It's basically a powerful, acute pain reliever.
So it's an analgesic, but it doesn't actually accelerate tissue repair on a molecular level.
That's right. The healing timeline is pretty much the same whether you plunge or not. And what's fascinating is this distinction creates a kind of paradoxical finding in the data.
Which is?
Well, while people report feeling less sore later, some studies actually show CWI increases acute inflammatory markers.
Wait, increases them?
In the first hour, yes. Things like IL-6. So if someone claims they're immediately lowering inflammation, the data suggests the opposite might be true right at the start.
Because the body's first response is stress. It's a jolt.
It's a massive jolt.
Speaking of that jolt, let's get into the reason people seem to get hooked on this, the physiological shock.
That immediate neurochemical response it's dramatic. And it's totally reproducible.
Like flipping a switch in your brain.
It is. The cold triggers this massive sympathetic surge, a huge release of catecholamines.
And what does that look like in numbers?
Plasma norepinephrine, vital for alertness and focus, can increase by up to 530%.
530%, that is huge.
It is. And dopamine, which is linked to motivation and mood, that surges by about 250%.
So that explains why you step out feeling mentally invincible. It's a genuine neurochemical high.
It's a survival response. And the sources note that while that initial cold shock, the gasping, the racing heart is intense, your system learns.
It adapts.
It habituates. After about 4 immersions, that acute panic response starts to diminish. You get resilient to it.
And the autonomic effect is also reliable, right? The effect on HRV.
Absolutely. After that initial fight-or-flight shock, CWI reliably improves heart rate variability, or HRV.
Which is a measure of nervous system resilience.
Right. It suggests a reliable shift toward a parasympathetic, or rest and digest state, after the stressor is gone. So you get a stress test, followed by a reliable shift toward calm.
Okay, so high confidence on perceptual recovery and a big neurochemical boost. But now we have to turn to the major high confidence downside.
A critical trade-off.
Undermining long-term adaptation.
And if your primary goal in the gym is to get stronger or build muscle hypertrophy, this part is, well, it's the most important part of this deep dive for you.
Because the evidence is robust. Regular CWI immediately after resistance training significantly. It just attenuates those adaptations.
It blunts them.
But wait, if it helps me feel better, why would it stop my muscles from growing? I mean, top athletes swear by this stuff.
And that is the classic confusion between acute recovery and long-term adaptation.
Right.
Acute recovery gets you ready for tomorrow's session. Adaptation builds muscle over the next 12 weeks. The two goals are sometimes mutually exclusive when you use cold water.
Let's detail the landmark study here. Roberts and colleagues from 2015.
Yes, this one is a game changer. They followed trained men for a 12-week lifting program. One group got immediate CWI, the other just did an active cool down.
And after 3 months.
The active recovery group, the no-cold group, gained 206 grams more quad muscle mass.
Whoa. And what about strength?
Even more significant. On the leg press, the active group increased their strength by 201 kilograms. The CWI group,
How much?
only 133 kilos.
That is a massive difference. You are actively fighting your own progress.
You are.
So let's talk mechanism. Why does cooling the muscle right after you lift stop it from getting bigger?
When you lift, you create tension and microtrauma, and that's the signal to grow. CWI just blunts those molecular pathways that receive the signal.
Specifically, satellite cell activation and the MTOR pathway.
That's the big one, MTOR.
Can you break down MTOR for us?
Think of MTOR as the construction foreman for muscle building.
Okay. The green light for growth.
Exactly. You lift weights, you flip the switch to green, it says build new protein now. When you immediately hit the muscle with cold water, CWI flips that switch right back to yellow or red. It stops muscle protein synthesis in its tracks.
So you did all the work, but you immediately turn off the machine that delivers the results.
That's the trade-off. And it's why the practical takeaway here is so important. Cold plunges have to be periodized.
If muscle gain is your goal, avoid it right after your workout.
Right. Separate it by at least 4 to 6 hours, or just save it for a full rest day.
Now, there is one major exception to this rule.
For endurance athletes, yes.
The data seems to be neutral for them.
Correct. CWI does not appear to mess with aerobic training adaptations. This might be because the cold actually helps upregulate a mitochondrial regulator called PGC1.
What's PGC1?
It's the master regulator of building new mitochondria.
The powerhouses of your cells.
Exactly. For endurance, you want more of them. The cold seems to signal your body to create more, and that process doesn't seem to clash with aerobic signals the way it clashes with strength signals.
So endurance athletes can likely get the recovery benefits without paying that adaptation penalty.
It seems that way.
Okay, we've covered the acute benefits and the proven trade-offs. Let's move into the mixed and uncertain territory.
All those long-term health claims. This is where we need to avoid the hype.
Let's start with metabolic health. It's technically true that cold activates brown adipose tissue, right?
Yes, or BAT. And that does increase energy expenditure by about 188 calories a day. That's known and measurable.
So why aren't we all skinny from cold plunges? The claims about dramatic weight loss must be unsupported.
Completely unsupported. First, 188 calories it's a drop in the bucket. And second, your body just compensates.
You get hungrier.
You get hungrier. Observational studies of winter swimmers found they weren't any leaner and sometimes had higher body fat.
As insulation, maybe?
Potentially. And the findings on insulin sensitivity are also mixed. While some cold-adapted people show improvements, one study found a temporary decrease in insulin sensitivity after 16 daily sessions. And the key nuance here, the one that's always missed,
What's that?
is that to get any real metabolic benefit, the cold has to be intense enough to make you shiver.
So if you're just mildly chilly and comfortable, you're not getting it.
Precisely. Mild cooling protocols were found to be ineffective. You have to be truly uncomfortable to trigger that metabolic shift.
Okay, what about immune function? This is a huge one. Cold plunges make you immune to everything.
This comes from a big 2016 trial. A randomized control trial found that groups taking cold showers reported a 29% reduction in sickness absence.
So they took fewer sick days from work?
Exactly. Which sounds amazing, but here's what the study did not find.
Okay.
They did not find that people reported fewer total days of being sick. They got ill just as often.
So it doesn't stop you from catching a cold.
No.
It just gives you that neurochemical kick to feel like you can power through it and go to work.
That's the most likely interpretation. It's
Yeah.
psychological resilience and a feeling of vigor, not true infection prevention.
And finally, mental health. We know the neurochemical surge is real, so there's promise there for mood and focus.
Mechanistically, it's compelling. But the clinical evidence for a sustained antidepressant or anti-anxiety effect is Well, it's still weak. It mostly relies on single-case reports or surveys, not rigorous controlled trials.
This brings up a really important question. Who is all this research even based on? We have to talk about the huge evidence gaps and the safety warnings.
We have to be explicit here.
Mhm.
The evidence base has profound demographic limitations. When we say something is proven, it's primarily proven in young, healthy, athletic men.
That is a massive blind spot. What do we know about women?
Shockingly little. A major 2025 meta-analysis looked at 55 studies. Only one of those exclusively enrolled female participants.
1 out of 55.
Yes, so we're basically applying male data to female physiology, and we just don't know if it holds up.
And for women over 40 or postmenopausal women?
We have to state this clearly for our listeners. There are no controlled CWI trials for this population. Period.
None.
The absence of evidence is not evidence of safety, and that absence also extends to older adults in general.
So anyone over 60?
Virtually no reliable evidence exists, and they face elevated risks because of thermoregulation and a higher prevalence of cardiovascular issues.
Which brings us to the safety risks. Let's talk about this thing called autonomic conflict.
This is the biggest acute danger. CWI triggers a clash in your nervous system.
How so?
Your sympathetic system sends a panic signal, which makes your heart race tachycardia. At the same time, the cold water triggers the dieting reflex, which tells your heart to slow down, dramatically bradycardia.
So you're hitting the accelerator and the brakes at the exact same time.
Precisely. And that clash can promote fatal arrhythmias. In lab settings, this has happened in about 2% of healthy participants. This is not a risk you can just ignore.
That is a significant risk.
Absolutely. The American Heart Association guidance is clear. No CWI for anyone with a history of cardiovascular disease or uncontrolled hypertension. And going colder, below 7 degrees Celsius, gives you no extra benefit but substantially increases that risk.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've done the deep dive. Let's synthesize this into clear, balanced recommendations for you, the listener.
The first rule is simple. Adaptation versus recovery. If building strength or muscle is your goal, avoid CWI immediately after lifting.
That's a high-confidence conclusion. Save the plunge for your recovery day.
Second, for quick recovery. If you're in a competition and need to feel fresh for the next day, a 10-15-minute plunge at 10-15 degrees Celsius is evidence-based for reducing that feeling of soreness.
The feeling, not the actual healing.
And third, for general wellness. Treat CWI as an optional tool. Do it if you enjoy the mental boost, but don't substitute it for the foundations.
Exercise, sleep, nutrition, medical care.
Exactly. And finally,
Safety first. It has to be the mantra.
acclimatization is essential. Never ever plunge alone. Respect the time limits and always have a plan for rewarming slowly. That after-drop phenomenon is real.
Your core temperature keeps falling even after you're out.
It can be dangerous.
So if we step back, what's the final word we want to leave everyone with?
The core message is that CWI is a potent tool with clear trade-offs. It delivers reliable short-term benefits and a big neurochemical surge. But this can come at the cost of blunting long-term muscle adaptation.
And the broader health claims.
They remain plausible hypotheses, not proven facts. They just lack the rigorous evidence.
So here's the final thought. Since CWI relies on inducing physiological stress hormesis to work, maybe consider the long-term impact of constantly stressing your system that way. What are the consequences of habitually overriding your body's natural inflammatory and growth signals? And what other, maybe less taxing forms of stress, like heat or high-intensity exercise, might give you similar benefits without the cardiac risks or the muscle growth trade-offs? Something for you to explore safely.
Until next time, stay curious.
Dive deep, but stay safe.